Welcome to this session on how to create a powerful message that will attract your ideal clients and customers. And I'm really excited about this because it's so crucial for your business that for you to get customers or clients, depending on what you call them, depending on your business model. But because what you say is what attracts them. And so you really need to have this dialed in. It's like one of the first steps that you do in your business is to come up with a message that attracts people and that converts, that people will then be willing to buy whatever you have to buy, or even sign up for your free offer. That's like the first step, whatever it is. So I'm going to go through a three-step process, three pieces of it, and then we'll put it together. So the first piece of it is who you help. And you need to dial this in. You might have heard the expression niching down, which means just focusing your target market a little more narrowly. And there are a number of ways to do it. It's not absolutely necessary for everyone, but a lot of people find that they get better results that way. So, for example, I have a colleague who is selling a platform for online business. It includes web pages and email and a whole bunch of different shopping cart that are all together in one package. And the product that he's selling could be used for anything. But in the past, he has been helping authors. So he calls it Pub Funnels, so Pub standing for publisher. And so he's marketing it only to authors. He's marketing it as this is a way for you to have an author platform. And he does really, really well that way, even though the secret is anybody could use this. Now, he has some special templates that are relevant for authors and so on like that. But just by narrowing it down, he reaches just the right people and they respond to it. So again, another way of looking at it is what is and the second piece of this is the problem that you solve. And sometimes you can define your target market by their problem. So, for example, with authors, as an example, or speakers, that's a thing. People know that they're an author or they're a speaker. But I have another client who does money coaching, and he helps people get out of debt, and he helps people live within their budget, and helps people manage their money and so on like that. So there's no name for those types of people. The way you define those people is by the problem that they have. And there you need to do some research and to find out, because we tend to think that we know what their problem is, but it might not be what they're thinking their problem is. So for example, I had a client who had a really great worksheet about how to make ethical decisions. And when I said, well, what's the problem you're solving? She said, well, the problem is that they don't have a system to make the right decisions. And I said, that's not what they're thinking. They're not thinking that's their problem. So they might be thinking, I always, get into negative relationships, or they might think that I don't have friends, or they might think that I don't make good decisions about my career. Whatever it is, they're not making the right decisions, but they don't know, because they don't even understand the concept of having a sort of checklist almost, or a sort of worksheet to figure out what the right decisions are. Of course, there are consequences of not making right decisions, not making ethical decisions, but that's what they see as the consequences. So that would be a way of defining it, would be something like defining the problem might be I get into relationships that are not supportive, or I get into work situations where I'm taken advantage of, or something like that. And so those are very different people, but she could focus on one group of those. And then when you have that narrowed down, then those people respond, oh yeah, that's my problem. Yes, I need something like that. And then the solution might be the same for all of those different people, but if you're focusing on one of them, then you'll get a better response. So you need to know who your market is, and how you define that market can be different in different ways, like I said. So it could be speakers, or it could be authors, but it could be people who are in debt, or it could be people who are having trouble finding a supportive relationship. Whatever it is, you have to define that market. And sometimes you need to start asking people. You can ask past clients, you can ask online in groups, what are you experiencing with this or with that? And you can also, a really good idea, although it's time consuming, it's kind of hard to get enough people, is to actually meet one-on-one with people. It's called doing a research. I'm doing a little bit of market research, and would you be willing to meet with me for 15 minutes to answer some questions. And then you have a script of specific questions and you ask as many people. You get kind of the words that they use, the way they define their problems. And that can help you a lot to find a message that will attract them. So I think this mismatch between what the market thinks their problem is and what you think their problem is a big problem of why people don't buy. They don't feel like you're talking to them. They don't feel like you understand their problem specifically. So we've talked about market and we've talked about the problem. Once you have the sense of the problem, you need to define it really, really clearly. So in the case of people not being in a good situation at work, for example, it might be they don't know how to say no, or they don't know how to set boundaries. It might be that they don't know how to come forward. Maybe they're afraid to come forward with creative ideas that would help the company that they're working with. There are just so many different ways that they can improve the situation at work. Which one of the are you solving? How are you? Maybe you're providing all of those solutions, and the problem is simply, I'm unhappy at work. I don't feel like I'm valued. And that could be something that people would feel that would attract them. So, let me show you, 10 different ways, something like that, to be more appreciated at work. And that might, it's not like asking for appreciation, but it might be doing certain things that will help other people realize your value. So again, you need, sometimes your market, but if you don't, sometimes you have to define the market by their problem, but you need to really be very precise about it. You can test this. So for example, you could have a checklist or something like that, and then you could post on social media and social media groups with different titles and see which one gets the best response. And that will help you. It's another way of doing market research. And finally, what's your solution to the problem? So your solution, if you're a coach, your solution might be coaching, but it's more specific like that. You need to have a system. So if in this example of helping people feel more appreciated at work, you might have a list of things that the person goes through to be more appreciated at work, like volunteering for projects or coming up with ideas or some kind of quote, they call it personal branding. That's a common concept in the corporate world, or maybe whatever it could be. I can think of a lot of different things that would help you be more appreciated and more respected at work based on what you do and how you act and so on like that. So that's your solution. And it really helps for you to put it into a framework, into a system or a method. And you'll see this very commonly. You'll see, I have the something method, the Finkelstein method, or something like that. So just for example, I have a course. It's called the Proven Email Success Formula. So it's a formula. I have people say they have a system or they have a method or a framework or something like that, that makes people understand that the solution is structured and thought out and something that they can follow. They just have to follow some steps and they'll get some results. So you have to also be very specific with what your solution is. And even something like life coaching, which is one of the hardest things to explain what your solution is, because it's often just very general and based on what the person is saying. But for example, I had a client who said she starts with a life assessment. So people start, and that draws out what their problems is so that she can focus the coaching on actually what they feel the problem is. And so by having that life assessment, that was part of her system, part of her method. And you could, there are other things that you could say as well. We'll focus on relationships. We'll focus on, whatever it might be, or accomplishing your goals and getting over procrastination and this and that. So whatever your focus is, that needs to be really, really clear. Sometimes you might have multiple tracks that you can do. And so then you actually kind of need to offer those. So, I have the relationship track if you're a life coach. I have the, meeting your goals motivation track, and I have the whatever else there might be. So the point is that you have a system, a method that makes your whole solution be very structured. Now, how do you put that all together into a message that will attract people. So it's really kind of simple. You have the name of the target market, and you have what their problem is. And as I mentioned, that sometimes you're defining your target market by their problem, and then you have what your solution is. So, for example, I have a course on email marketing, and I say, I help online entrepreneurs get better results from their email marketing. So my target market is online entrepreneurs. And by the fact that I'm talking about email marketing, obviously they have to be somewhat committed to emailing people, and I help them getting better results. Now I can be much more specific than that afterwards, so I sometimes will say, getting more clicks and more sales, something like that. And so there's a financial aspect to it, of the solution. And by calling it, and then I say with my proven email success formula, so they know that there's an actual formula, there's a structure to it. I have a template and so on like that, and a course around it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to create a draft of your message that includes who you serve, what their problem is, and how you solve that problem. And you can have like a message, and then you could have like a tagline afterwards, and you put colon, and then a little bit more detail, whatever it is. But just something that you think is a powerful message. And then test it out, try it out, see how people react to it, and keep working on it until it attracts just the right people that you need.